everyone and welcome. This is exciting. We've got a Tesla Model Y in the UK and we've also got a Tesla Model 3 here, our dual motor long range, 19-inch wheels with hand cooked tyres, So what should we do? I think we're going to take these for a drive and we can drive them side by side at the same speed, at the same time, on the same roads, in the same conditions, in convoy, and let's compare their efficiency. I think, you know, there's obviously a slight size difference. This is very similar to a 3, but lifted, it has some more space inside. But does that come at the cost or penalty of efficiency? Will the efficiency be different between these two cars? Will the range be much different with this bigger size of the Y compared to the 3? Well, that's what we're about to find out. We're going to charge these cars right now on a charger just over there, both up to, I think, 80%. Get them both charged up at the same time, unplug, and then we shall head off and drive in convoy and see exactly what the differences are. And then along the way, get to experience the Model Y, lucky me, and I'll give you some opinion on the difference between the two cars. Before we get into this video, a big thank you to Oliver at custom-tesla.com for the loan of his car. So do check out his website, and a big thank you. Put a comment below saying thank you, Oliver, for lending Richard this car. So thank you very much. Right, let's get on with it. Let's get this car charging. So once these two cars are charging, let's just show you a couple of these sort of size differences as they sit next to each other now. Let's start at the front. Well, kind of they're almost identical. This one is just a bit deeper, as you'd probably imagine, but in terms of the width and depth, they look pretty much the same, just a bit deeper. So it is a bigger front in the Model Y. Then as we come side by side, let's just close this. This has got the power front conversion, by the way. So this is not standard. This power closure front is something that Oliver has added to this car. So remember, custom-tesla.com if you want a power front in Germany. And then this is the height side by side on level ground. So Model 3, Model Y, it's obviously quite a bit taller. And here's the real difference, is boot space. Firstly, this is a hatchback, as we know, and this is why everyone in Europe wants one. And it has a nice big square flat load area. This is flat here, and there's ample storage underneath, and there's some really deep pockets down the side here. The seats fold, and you've got some controls here to drop the seats, so that's really handy. Superb, much more practical compared to the Model 3, which is limited in its opening by the fact it's a saloon car and the glass comes right down here. So it's a big boot. I think in terms of floor space on the boot, it's not dissimilar. The seats do still fold, although you have to fold them from inside the car, but the practicality differences with this being a hatchback and this big opening, well, you can see there, this, especially if you've got dogs, of course, luggage, you're going to get a lot more in this car. Both just finished charging to 80% and at the same time within about 50 seconds of each other, so we're ready to go. So let's hit the road, and as always, just keep it in convoy at the same speed and treat them as evenly as possible so we can really pick apart the efficiency differences between these two cars. Both at 80%, the Model 3 dual motor long range shows 270 miles of range according to the car on 80%, whereas this Model Y shows 248 miles of range at 80%. But let's see how that pans out in the real world. First impressions of this car as I drive it, it feels like a Model 3. You obviously sat a little bit higher up. It feels like a Model 3 basically. So if you're used to a Model 3, expect very much the same thing. You just have this slightly raised position. I think in terms of a driver's perspective, in the Model 3 I can see the kind of edges of the front wings out of the windscreen, so you can sort of see the corners of the car a little bit, whereas in the Model Y I think it's a steeper kind of bonnet and wing shape, so if I got that I can sort of just about see it, but I can't see it as naturally as I could in the 3. So I guess, you know, potentially positioning, I know where the front of the car is, it's slightly different from that regard, but other than that, so far they feel very much the same. We're coming up now to a motorway. We'll both be driving at the speed limit in the UK of 70 miles an hour. So again, just get real world scenario, not trying to eke out, you know, not hypermiling and not worst case scenario. We've both got 2 people in each car, by the way, as well. So other than a few kilograms of weight differences between us. Again, everything is as even as it can possibly be. What happens with a Tesla when you drive between different countries in Europe? Driving on the left hand side of the road, driving on the right hand side of the road, obviously your headlights have a different priority for their beam. So I'm in a left hand drive Model Y, and the beam, as I pull up to this garage here, is higher on the right hand side. It hasn't gone flat and it hasn't switched. I sort of thought with Tesla what they could do is just know from where the vehicle is in Europe, as soon as you cross the channel and you're on the other side of the road, that they could change these beam patterns, but they don't. Okay, it's also a bit dark, but how do we do for economy? So 71.3 miles, 18 kilowatt hours used, 257 watt hours per mile. I think that's pretty good. So it's very nearly 4 miles per kilowatt hour, which for a car this size I think is very efficient. Again, driving at speed limits, it's obviously in the evening now, so there was no traffic. 70 miles per hour all the way. Let's go and see what the Model 3 has. And the Model 3 recorded 72 miles covered, 18 kilowatt hours used, 245 watt hours per mile. So yes, more efficient, but not by much, and kind of what you'd expect really. But yeah, I mean, very, very similar, as you can tell. Morning everybody, it's an early start and now we're heading back up. We've only really just left about 12 miles ago. Both cars have already started preconditioning their battery for fast charging. We've got the destination set to Fleet Superchargers, and that is still, if I bring the camera around, 50 miles away. Now, interestingly, the Model 3, Joe called me about 4 miles back to say his car was showing its preconditioning already, and we thought that's a bit strange, and then now this one is doing exactly the same. So yeah, it shows that they want a lot of time to precondition when they've got a cold battery. 50 miles. Is it any noisier in the cabin? I'm on a stretch of road at the moment which is concrete paved, so it's particularly noisy, and I always notice this in cars when I come up and down this stretch of road. I would say this car is actually a little bit quieter than the Model 3, but the owner of this car, one of the things he does with his modifications to Teslas is can fit sound insulation, and he's fitted sound insulation to this car already, even though it's only 5 days old. So the doors and the wings inside the panels here have already been lined. And that does make it a little bit quieter than the Model 3. So a car that hasn't had the soundproofing, I think is going to be, again, pretty much the same as the Model 3. 139 miles covered, and we are now at some Tesla Superchargers. These are V2 chargers, but we're the only ones here, so as long as we're on separate numbers, we should have equal power. So let me just park this carefully and let's get some efficiency data, and then we get them on charge. Right, so what have we got? So this Model Y is recorded 139 miles. It's used 39 kilowatt hours and it's averaged 278 watt hours per mile. I've got a range of 75 miles left, which is in percentage 24% of the battery left. So I can actually do some calculations. I should have done this in advance, but bear with me. So we started with 80%, and we've got 24% left, so we used 56% of the battery. So let's do 139 miles divided by 56, 100 by 100. That would mean 100% charge would give us 248 miles of range in these conditions, and that is basically nearly all 70 miles an hour. So it's not going for optimal maximum range, real world driving and heating and air conditioning on and a cold start this morning, but that would mean Model Y dual motor, long range, 70-ish miles an hour. It's now 15 degrees Celsius outside, so it's not particularly cold. 248 miles of range. Let's see how on this day that is compared to the Model 3. What's the average watt hours per mile? So, you need coffee. Sorry, Serge? 278. Right, 278. That's more efficient than this one. Woo. Okay, how does the Model 3 compare? This was recorded 140 miles. We've done exactly the same journey, so there's obviously a difference in what it's recorded. 39 kilowatt hours used and an average of 281 watt hours per mile. So actually slightly more than that one on this stop, but we're so close and so similar. So this gives me a range left of 78 miles based on 23%. In terms of efficiency and range, I think really we're going to have to call it equal. But isn't that a good thing? Isn't it good that the Model Y, even though it is bigger, it is a little bit heavier, that doesn't come at the detriment of real world range? Okay, whilst these two cars are charging, let's just show you the insides of each, and I'll get in both of them. Firstly, the dimension differences. So this is 18 centimeters taller, 7 centimeters wider, and 5 centimeters longer. So it is bigger all round, and it weighs 150 kilograms more. But what I want to show you here is the difference when you sit in them, basically. So the Model 3, obviously you go down into it, it's fairly low. And I'm going to get the seat into my comfortable driving position. And you can see here this difference between the seat and the floor. Your legs are much straighter and sort of flat out in front of you. The visibility is really good in the Model 3. You can see the road right down in front of you, and I can actually see the wings, so it's easy to place the car. Okay, right, let's just get my seat in position there. So that would be my driving position. So let's now get in the back of the Model 3 and show you here that the main thing is this gap here. My knees are up. I've got leg room, I'm in, I'm 6 foot tall and I'm comfortable. I could sit in it for a fairly long journey. The seat is quite low to the floor because that's how I need it in the front, and so I can't get my toes under the seat in front. It's okay, and I have this roof line here, so it's not bad. But this is the big difference with the Model Y. Much easier to get in and out of. It's a nice height for that. Let's get my position here. So there we go, about there. Obviously the floor is low. You can see this kind of block under the seat here. The seats seem the same, but you've got that block under the seat just to lift it up. So the fact your feet are slightly lower down, I think on a long journey is better. I think that is more comfortable. And then visibility, it does feel wider and bigger here, but I can't see those sort of lines of the wings, so I can't really see any of that below the dashboard there. But the really big gains come in the back seat. This is a huge difference, huge difference. So my knees are no longer upright. I can get my feet right under this seat in front of me here. I've got loads of knee room, got loads of headroom, and I don't have this roof line, isn't sort of right here, so it's nicer, it's more open. It does feel a bit wider inside, and I think in here you could quite easily get 3 people across the back seat if you needed to. And it's a flat floor, and you've got the legroom in the center section as well. It's really, really good. Plus, you can actually move the seat. That's the upright position. I can actually recline it down like that. So a long journey, you can sit right back. Then you've got the big glass roof here, isn't interrupted by the beam across the middle. So in the back, you can really appreciate this one glass roof, and it's lovely. So really, really good for passengers in the Model Y. Okay, in terms of charging speed, well, the speed of the Model Y seems to sort of go up and down a little bit. There was times when the Model 3 was charging a bit quicker, and there was times when this was charging a bit quicker. We've got to go now. We don't have time to get to 80%. So this one's just, we've stopped it at 68%, and the Model Y is on 62%. So actually, overall in this charging period, this one has charged a little bit quicker. Right, we have to go, so let's pack up and I'll summarize it on the journey back. Okay, so that was interesting. Yesterday on the journey down, the Model 3 was slightly more efficient, and this morning the Model Y was the slightly more efficient car. Really not much in it. I would expect the Model Y to be the slightly less efficient, but fairly, obviously as you can see, fairly similar. And we've kept everything as equal as possible. Would the Model 3 with aero wheels then have been more efficient? We've got the 19-inch wheels, but from my experience, the difference between 19-inch wheels, the sport wheels, and the aeros isn't really noticeable. Maybe there's a slight difference there, but nonetheless, they're both on 19-inch wheels. Anyway, I've got to go and hand this car back now, and yeah, we've run out of time. We were going to try and get to 80% charge. We've just run out of time, so sorry we haven't been able to do that or do more with this car. We've done what we can in the time we've had. I've got to hand it back. So let's try and summarize what I think of the Model Y then. I've driven a lot of Teslas and a lot of electric cars, and the Model Y is just bloody brilliant, really. It's everything most people will need and want, and as I've said lots before, it will be very popular and was, completely justified. It should be. It's a very, very good car. I've got a couple of slight criticisms and comments, so I'm going to cover that as well. but overall brilliant. It's a car compared to the competition and cars like the ID4 and there's cars like the Skoda Enyaq and Q4 e-tron, Hyundai Ioniq 5, Kia EV6. So it does have a lot of competition coming out, and it'd be interesting to try more of those over time. But it's a car that you can really use for everything. You can have the family in it. It's vastly practical. It's efficient, and you can still have fun in it. This stands out to the others as being much faster. It's a fast car. It has sharp steering. You can have fun in it. It's it's something you can use sensibly with the family at the weekend, and then commute on a Monday morning across some A roads and have a bit of fun with it as well. So what a great all-round car it is, and I'm sure we're going to love it. They couldn't make these fast enough for the next couple of years, I don't think. The wing mirrors on the Model Y aren't as wide. They seem quite narrow. They actually seem quite square, and I kind of want them to be wider. I think because the car's wider, they've made the wing mirrors slightly narrower perhaps. I mean, they're fine, but it kind of sometimes feels like you need a slightly wider wing mirror. And then my personal opinion, and what I could criticise the Model Y for, but also the Model 3 really, is that sporty feel does come at the detriment of a bit of ride quality. I've always found with the Model 3 and the Model Y is the same in that it's just a little bit firm. And I also sort of think in the Model Y potentially this sort of fast steering, it sort of doesn't suit it as well. It does feel more like a bigger crossover SUV type car, if you want to call it that. I don't like using that term. This is just taller because it's more practical for space and comfortable. But what I'd like to see is the performance version has this fast steering and firm ride, but the non-performance Model Y, it just has a slightly slower steering rack. You sort of find that it just doesn't need, for passengers, this kind of sharp steering can make it a bit jerky. I tried the passenger seat earlier and in the rear, and I could just feel those movements from the driver, and it wasn't as relaxing as I think it could be. And perhaps for UK roads at least, just softening off the suspension a little bit, I think would help. It's a high performance car, you've got to have the body control, but just knocking it back a little bit. A VW ID4, it's more comfortable. The ride quality is less fidgety. This one, every little ridge in the road and the motorway, you just kind of feel it. So they're minor criticisms. I think it's only fair to say that, and it's just my opinion. But no doubt, overall, just a brilliant car, and it deserves to do well, and I'm a bit sad to hand it back really. So before I do, again, a big thanks to the owner Oliver. Comment below to give you thanks to him. Custom-tesla.com is his website, and if you're in Europe and certainly in Germany and you want some of this soundproofing, which seems to be an effective way just to keep the sound down, check him out. He's also done this power front conversion, which I think is brilliant. That it almost should be a standard thing, and it seems like a standard thing, but especially the closure, and especially like if the car gets dirty, it just closes itself. You haven't got to push down on the bonnet. I think it's brilliant. So worthwhile additions there. And a big thanks to the Tesla Owners Group UK for basically arranging for this car to be at the Fully Charged live event, and looking after Oliver and his travels here. So a huge thanks to everyone. I'm very privileged to be, I think, the only one in the UK to have a good drive of a Model Y and test it like this. So I appreciate how lucky I've been for that opportunity. And if anyone has any questions that they'd like to ask, certainly fire away in the comments below, and I'll do my best to get through those and answer them. If you're going to ask when it will arrive in the UK, I don't know, so maybe don't ask that one yet. Place your bets. Let me know what you think. They say that they're waiting for Giga Berlin, but this car has come from Shanghai. They also make right-hand drive cars in Shanghai for the Hong Kong and Australia marketplaces, so they could put some on a boat over here along with some Model 3s, but they haven't. Why haven't they? We can't even reserve or order one yet, so we'll see when they come. I'm sure when they do come, they won't be able to make enough. The demand is huge. I wonder what the impact that will have on the used market for SX and 3. Well, when the 3 came out, the S has still been popular since, and it is quite a bit different to the X. It doesn't have the doors, and I think although there will be a 7-seater of this, apparently it will be a small 7-seater in that regard. The back seats I think are going to be pretty small. So for that, an X is certainly more capable. It is still bigger and the front's bigger, but a great balance of a car. I probably need to stop talking now. The video is probably too long, but thanks to everyone who's made this possible again. Thanks to everyone who's watched this video. Subscribe for some more. I'm going to try and do another comparison with this car today in terms of sitting in it and the luggage space compared to other cars, because at the fully charged outside show here, there are, the competition is here. The Skoda Enyaq and Audi Q4 e-trons and the like. So if I get a chance, I'm going to try and film that today. So stay subscribed, hit the bell icon for notifications, and you should see, if we get a chance, another video on that soon. And then we may even make a little trip to Germany. You never know. So, right, that's enough from me. Brilliant car. Speak to you all on the next video.